Hello and welcome to the Bend Like Bamboo Resilience Show. To bend like bamboo is to master change with flexibility. And on the show, I get to interview very special guests about resilience and how to master it in our minds, bodies, and lives. And today, I get to speak to the beautiful Fiona Goldsmith. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks so much for having me. I haven't been out much since lockdown, so this is exciting.
I know it's like every day it feels like Christmas at the moment with all the things we get to do. And, I've been a huge fan of your work and I just loved meeting you in person. Oh, would that have been a year or two ago? How long ago was that?
I think it's got to be at least 18 months, but
I think so.
This last year has disappeared like that. It's just been a total, like being on a totally different planet. So
I totally agree, but please let me introduce you properly. So, Fiona is an author, speaker, poet, and a creative, dedicated, and qualified yoga teacher and pain management consultant. With over 40,000 hours leading classes, workshops, and private sessions, Fiona completed teacher training at the world renowned Yoga Works in Santa Monica, California in 1994. She merged various yogas with Qigong, mindfulness, breath work, and resistance stretching. Fiona teaches corporate workshops, group classes privately, and also works with teens and kids. She specializes in beginners, the stressed, and those who find themselves less stretchy. Her tools are resistance stretching, functional movement, breathing, and focus of mind to help her students and clients become strong, flexible, and balanced in their bodies, creating comfort and confidence. She has created a merging of modalities she calls resistance yoga when she teaches Flexed. And that's the name of your business, isn't it? Flexed with a double XD.
we have to have a point of difference, and misspelling is definitely a point of difference.
Yes, I did the same thing when I had Nourish with the two S's so I could get the .com.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, cool, Fiona. So tell me, what inspired you to create Flexed?
Honestly, when I started yoga and we started doing yoga all the time, I was in my late 20s and I was really tight. I had very tight hips. So I'd sit on the floor and I'd be like a lot of the blokes that play footy. I had my knees up quite high and it was kind of embarrassing. And yoga, the way I was learning it, doing Ashtanga and Iyengar at the original yoga work, didn't actually fix me. I improved somewhat, but there was a stop point. So I wanted to be flexible. So I would journey into other things. Qigong, Tibetan yoga, Kundalini yoga, Pilates. I went to a Chinese Chinese doctors to see what they can do. I thought about surgery, but I never did it. So there was lots of different things, but I just wanted to have an open body. And gradually I worked it out. Yeah. And I teach people shortcuts by comparison, like what works.
Great idea. Great idea. And it's really important. I'm a huge flexibility advocate, hence what Bend Like Bamboo is all about. And I really do believe we can, master change with flexibility, but there's so much we can do with our body when it's more flexible, and because our minds and bodies are so connected, and then the energy of us and spirit, it's all about flexibility, isn't it?
Well, it is. And so, we're a culture that's addicted to youth. And honestly, everybody's worried about their faces, but the reality is youth is flexible. The ability to move keeps you young. So I'm in my 60th year, 60 this year, and I'm actually more flexible and stronger and kind of lighter in my being than I was when I was 30.
I love that.
I like improving with age.
Yeah. Oh, I keep getting better in my body with age. I'm fitter than ever. I understand my body more. All my organs are functioning more than ever because I know how to take care of them now. And I know that my mindset's connected to that. And I know that when I'm feeling happy in my mind, my face looks younger because people say, oh, you look younger. And it's true. I guess we are in a culture where this is often, admired. You look younger. It's like, well, it doesn't really matter. But we do strive for vitality, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with it, and it feels good. So honestly, I lightened up on myself and decided my direction was what feels good.
Yeah.
Because I think we also just been through an era of no pain, no gain, and I believe it's got a lot to answer for. people have pushed themselves too hard and frankly hurt themselves.
Yeah.
And so there's whole elements of flexibility where bodies have gone, I'm not going to let you take me any further because you've hurt me. So you have to develop trust with your own body.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive in. What does resilience mean to you?
It's the ability to recover. It's the ability, because stuff happens, crappy stuff happens, but it's the ability to recover and learn from it and feel like, oh yeah, I just learned something, I grew.
I love that definition. I love, I get to hear everybody's different definitions, and everybody has such a different take on resilience. It's similar, there's common denominators, but there are absolutely new outlooks and perspectives with different people. And so for you, I love that. It's the ability to recover. Crap happens, but how can we learn from it?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a physical journey. We're in a physical body for this journey, and most of my accidents and most painful experiences have been a place that not only have I learned a lot as a human, but I've also learned a lot from my work, how to recover and how to teach. I could have a certain amount of empathy for clients that were wounded, but until I had that sort of wounding myself, I didn't really know.
Yes. Would you like to share something you've been through that you've had to recover from?
Well, a year ago, and it's just a year, I actually broke my first bone. So I've never broken a bone. And I had a car accident, and it didn't look like a big car accident, but I thought I had a very badly sprained wrist, and it hurt. 3 weeks later, it turned out I actually had a break in my wrist. So then I had a surgery, then I had a pin put in, and so I guess I ended up with 2.5, 3 months of fairly chronic pain, which was an experience. Luckily, it's like childbirth, and you don't really remember it, so you write it down so you've got the story. But and that's what the only reason we have more children. But I went through this experience, and I had a splint for 12 weeks, after plaster. And I wanted to go to Bali, and they said, yes, you can go to Bali, but you must stay in the splint. So when I came out of it, I was weak. Now, I've never been weak. I had muscle wastage. I couldn't lift up a teacup with anything in it. I couldn't wash my own hair for a period of time. The amount of things I couldn't do were frightening. And, you suddenly realise that you've known other people at different times and you didn't get it. And then you're in this experience of being, quite powerless, and you have to sit with it. So I think my lockdown actually started quite a while before everybody else's in Melbourne. So that's my resilience. That's what happened. And then there was the recovery from it and what I've learned and how it's impacted my business and my understanding, what I've learned about wrists and arms and fascia on a whole different level.
Yes, of course, because when you have your own personal experience, and after you have all the wealth of knowledge that you have and all the studies you've done and working with clients, and then now it's your body, what was that like when, let's talk about the lowest point, like when you really hurt yourself, you couldn't lift a teacup, you couldn't wash your hair. How did that feel at your lowest point?
Incredibly powerless. And I'm a bit of a bull at a gate. I'm an oldest child, and I look after other people, and I sort of push through and make things happen. And if I let anybody down, the tendency is be myself, but I got better about that as I got older. But now it was really messy, really vulnerable, couldn't work. GAC was wonderful, actually paid me not to work. That was amazing. But it was very low and very frightening, because also if you're in a business where you are your business and then you don't exist for, it's 3 months, and then you've got January, so 4 months it didn't exist. So I was also doing the having to start again thing. That was pretty low, pretty scary and painful. That feeling of throbbing through the night.
That would have been That would have been awful. So tell me, how did you transform it? What was the journey?
Well, first of all, I decided to go to Bali by myself.
Wow.
And so I went to Bali by myself with a stint. And the plan was to go for 30 days. And I guess it was my eat, pray, love experience, not from the love perspective, it was more self-love. But it was, I met some wonderful women one night and we went off traveling together, and I sailed with little dolphins about this big and quite pink, and I had just amazing, special experiences. But it's kind of nice getting out of your own box, isn't it? Because you are seen by new people and see yourself differently, and you reflower. Oh, I do anyway. You reflower and launch yourself. And it was, I had my 60th birthday away, potentially by myself, but I created these 3 friends. So it was rather lovely.
Beautiful. What a great idea. So this happened recently.
Yeah. This was, I broke it. I broke my wrist at the end of October.
Yeah.
And I didn't, when I came back from Bali, it was, the end of January, and I didn't start work again till then. That lasted until March, didn't it?
Yeah.
And we got closed down.
And then we got closed down again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was that like for you, closing down for so many months?
Look, it was difficult, and on the other side, again, it recreated me, because what had happened is a number of my clients had paid me for the term, and I couldn't just take their money and not provide anything. So I got onto Facebook Live, never done it before, and started teaching classes every single day. I've done it every single day since.
Oh, beautiful.
So over the period of time, I learned about lighting, got the right microphones, and I saw myself with compassion and developed a great relationship with the camera, and knowing that there were people on the other side. So I've been, 200 classes later, and then my corporate clients sort of went online too, because we had no choice. So it's been very interesting, a whole new world. And I'm really glad now that I got the opportunity to do it, because now I'm again not really scared of anything, but I'm just thrown in by trying to cater to 20 of my clients.
Yeah.
And then they shared with their friends, and then now on the Facebook page there's 700 people that know what I do, whereas normally they're not all watching at the same time, mind you, but normally you only dealt with people in your area.
Yes.
You were, if it was too long a drive, you never saw anybody. And I've had people coming in from New Zealand and a couple from America, and down the coast and all sorts of places.
Yeah, because that's what digitalizing the business does. It expands it. It makes it go global. And so you've been doing daily Facebook Live lessons. Super.
Every single week. And then last week I started doing Instagram. So now I do 3 days on Instagram Live and 4 days on Facebook Live. So I've never stopped.
Awesome. So tell me, how did Bali help you with your transformational process, healing your wrist?
Well, I couldn't actually do much with my wrist at the time. That just had to be kept still. It took me back into Kundalini yoga at this wonderful place called Yoga Barn. And that was about the only yoga I could do, because everything else had up dog and handstand and stuff in it. So I couldn't do any of that. But in Kundalini, I couldn't. It reminded me how much I loved just that snow dome effect of shake up the body and then release and see where you are now. So I was already using a bit of Kundalini with what I was doing, and it sort of sent me into more. And yeah, I got really, I thought I was healthy before I chose another level of health. I upgraded.
Oh, good. You upgraded the software. I love it. So how did you do that?
Just going back to, and I've done it ever since, organic, simple, clean. I mean, I've always been a bit like that, but it became even more important. I guess it's more important because I'm 60. So my kids are, how old are they? 22 and 25. So I wasn't a young mother. And I just realized I have a hell of a responsibility to look after my health, because I don't want them to, have an old decrepit person to look after.
No, I don't think they will. I just can't imagine that when I look at you. That's a beautiful, intention to have anyway. So, so your wrist started to recover. You were eating better, eating well regardless, but ramped up organic. And you find that when you eat nutrient dense and organic foods, you think that ramps up repair for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm a supplement queen. I mix them up, but I'm a supplement queen. So I really love medicinal mushrooms.
Yes.
Particularly lion's mane and reishi.
Yes.
But I play around with them. I kind of follow my intuition, and I find things and I go, oh, okay, I want to have that. And then I go home and look as to why.
Yes.
And I really trust myself that way. My latest one is something called herb robert. I really like herb robert. It's a beautiful herb. And so, I go through phases, and there's certain things that are consistent. My body seems to, the only deficiency I'll tend to have is magnesium. So I kind of add magnesium, and other than that, I play, but very, nutrient dense. I have my smoothies every day. But when I took the splint off, this was the interesting thing.
Yes.
I had wasted muscle. I've never had that before.
Yes.
Okay, so I've got saggy arms, and not just the right one, the left one too, because I haven't been able to do anything. And I'm looking at my body and going, oh, I have a 60-year-old body. Can I get it back? And then I just started doing what I do, and it's great. It's like my body has fully recovered doing what I do. So I have even more faith in what I do now. But I learned a few new tricks along the way.
So you started the stretching and the functional movement training that you do and your yoga, and how long did it take from you to only be able to do sort of the energy kundalini yoga into the downward dog and the more physical yoga?
I started straight away as soon as I got out of my splint, but I just make a point of doing enough to challenge. Being uncomfortable is fine. Being in pain is not. And you have to navigate that. I was navigating, but I was building up every day. At first, it wasn't much, but it was just enough. And but with my practice, it's quite short. So it's not. So it's really a case of a little bit of resistance versus a lot of resistance. So I could use a little bit of resistance and get a result, and gradually build strength. But the resistance is cleaning up the scar tissue and the dense fascia that's built up from having accidents.
Give us a definition for people that don't understand flexed and your technique of that resistance stretching and how it repairs. I've learned a lot about this as a sports kinesiologist, but just do a little explanation of what that does and what it means.
Okay, so if you take an orange and you take the peel off the orange, the fascia is like the white stuff all the way around the orange.
Love it.
But it doesn't just go, and so that's to the tops of our heads, to our fingers and our toes. We are encircled in this connective tissue. But like the orange, it also goes around each piece of orange, and it threads into each piece of orange. Yes. And it's dense, and that's like every muscle. So it's dense, and it's about 8 times stronger than muscle. So what happens to people with the way we exercise and we frankly don't stretch in a healthy manner is we build dense connective tissue right up the back of the body, mainly the glutes, the hamstrings, and the back of the shoulders.
I feel it all the time.
Yeah, so the stuff that I'm working with, I never let people, and people don't go into their full stretch. What they do is if you put your hands together, put your palms together and push equally, right? So you've got everything switched on, right? So now when I push more through my right arm, my left arm is pushing back. And now I push back through my left arm, my right arm's pushing back. So I've got constant resistance and I'm not going very far, right? But everything's switched on. Well, through flex, what I'm doing is I'm also working through hands and feet. I'm working through holding onto the knees, pushing out, pushing back, and so on, and going through every single muscle group with switch on, switch off. And that fascia that is encircling the muscle is flexed and it's just extended and flexed like this. And it starts to break down the scar tissue.
Yes.
and the density. So what
Yes.
seems to happen with my clients, if they've been doing it for long enough, is they've gained some flexibility. But what's particularly interesting is they go away on their overseas trip for 3 months and they come back and they say, well, I don't feel very fit, but I'm still as flexible as I was.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
once you reclaim it, you've got it.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. And when you link these movements to your breathing and you link your mind into it, well, we know from the virtual reality of astronauts or racing car drivers or athletes that use this virtual reality technique, that they get a response without even doing the exercise from the whole body. Well, if we're doing the exercise and everything is actually that connected, we don't have to do that much. The body responds a lot quicker.
There would be so much emotional release as you're working on the fascia. They're doing concentric and eccentric movements. And then, when there's stuck pockets that I've often been there for many, 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 many years. And for me, when the left-hand side of my body was totally paralyzed, in some, deep pressure massages that I've had fascia release that's been, there for a long time. And also, obviously, as a kinesiologist, there's, so many emotional relationships to stuck fascia and muscle and tendons and ligaments. I think that's why I really love what you do, because on a very holistic level, you're helping to transform the body physically in a very, it's a very, how do I put it? It's so simple. It's sensational.
It is so simple. And what's beautiful about it is, like, my dad has Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, the universe, I do believe in the universe in this way. I was given 4 or 5 people before he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So I had these people that I was trying to help. And then him, and like, it's getting harder and to get up and down off the floor. It's just too hard. So I started teaching him in a chair. And then I had another client who's actually the same age as me, we're childhood friends, and she had rheumatoid arthritis, and she was not able to exercise for 19 years because of chronic pain. Well, we started in a chair. And what's happened, particularly with Marion, is that we have worked, she has undone these tightnesses, and she's avoided surgeries, and she's now doing regular classes with everybody else down on the floor. So it's kind of, you can take this resistance stuff, keep it simple, and modify it for anything.
Super cool. Oh, I love it. So tell me, how is your life different and perhaps even better, having gone through what you had to go through, repairing your wrist and feeling disempowered and powerless, to using your beautiful technique on yourself, realizing that you can totally overcome it?
It's given me some real confidence, like more confidence. And it's also made me more creative because, for example, when I got all the flexibility back in this hand and I could do everything, as I'm working, I noticed that there's this one muscle in stretch that's really tight through there. I go, okay, so we can play with this and pressing in and pulling away. So I'm doing that, and I'm teaching the students to work that way through their bodies as well, because I really like teaching people how to look after themselves instead of having to be the person that does it to them. I mean, we can have lockdown again and they're sucked again, so we have to learn to look after it.
Yeah, self-care is so important. It's very nourishing to be able to help people on that journey as well. I love that. So you're more confident and more creative. What a wonderful gift. Oh my gosh. So do you have any tips that you want to share with people today on how to be more resilient?
I think that mindfulness to me means just staying inside your body when you have an experience. It's just allowing your body to be mindful of the moment. So the classes help people to be mindful when they're there. And the thought that I plant in people's minds is to check in a couple of times a day and ask how they are, rather than why. And so how is going to be how they are physically, how they are emotionally, how they are breathing, just to notice what's going on. And when you do, there's a tendency to self-correct.
Yes. I love that. That's so true. And we need a lot of confidence and self-love to check in with ourselves. We need to feel worthy to do that, don't we?
Yeah, and I think that that also comes with health. Um,
Yeah.
the healthier you can get, the more naturally happy we
Yeah.
are. I think that when people are very unhappy, it's just another way of showing imbalance, and
Yeah.
there's something that can be tweaked to help.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Fiona. I think that your work is amazing, and hopefully, um, I know that so many people. I absolutely I exercise a lot, but I always need to stretch more. And you've reminded me that it really is so important for the mind, the body, and the soul to do that, and also it really promotes repair. What you can do with stretching. Yeah. And all right. If anyone wants to check out Fiona's work, please jump on her Instagram, Fiona Goldsmith, and also flexed.co. And you have a Facebook group, don't you, which is Flexed with Fiona Live.
Yeah, that one's by donation, so there's quite a few people on it that people get on at 8 a.m. or they can tune in and do a class later in the day. And their donations have kept me going during lockdown, which is kind of nice.
Awesome. Oh, lovely. Well, thank you, Fiona. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And everybody, no matter what you are going through, you can overcome it and discover what you are made of. See you next week. See you, Fiona.
Bye, darling. Thank you so much.